Hey guys, it's Jill. Jen and I wanted to give you a heads up about the content on today's episode. It may be triggering for more sensitive audiences. Refer to the show notes for more specifics. And take care while you listen. On this episode of Common Mystics, we uncover this astounding story of the people held in a curious location for even more curious reasons during wartime. I'm Jennifer James.
I'm Jill Stanley.
We're psychics.
We're sisters.
We are common mystics. We find extraordinary stories in ordinary places. And today's story takes us to Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia.
That's right, Jen. And do you want to explain to everyone what we were doing on this very unique trip?
Sure. Our headquarters for this trip was Chattanooga. We were there for a family wedding. And we had explored Huntsville, Alabama. And after leaving Huntsville, we ventured into Georgia, where we made an astounding discovery.
That's right. And can you please remind our listeners what our intentions were on that day?
Our intention was, as it always is, which is to ask the spirits to lead us to a verifiable story previously unknown to us that allows us to give voice to the voiceless spirits.
That's right. So let's get over some of our hits that we were getting in the car.
Okay. So right away, you started feeling soldiers everywhere, like military people everywhere.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that. And it wasn't Civil War people either. It felt more modern.
Very good. I remember that. And also, I was picking up on rocks, like rocks that you mine.
Yes. Yes. I was picking up, I remember telling you this, the smell of old urine, like the Chicago Blue Line urine smell. Like
Right.
It's been baking for a while.
Old urine. Yeah, I remember you saying that. I wrote it down. And at that point, that's when we saw signs for a Civil War battlefield. Do you
That's
remember?
right.
Chickamauga. I'm not even going to let you try it.
I wanted to try so bad too. I was like, Chickamauga.
No, MAGA. That's
Chickamauga.
cute though, because you're interpreting the U as an N. That's your dyslexia. There's no N. It's a U.
Well, I'm so glad that excites you.
Well, it does kind of, but Chickamauga, say MAGA.
Mauga.
Chickamauga. Yeah. The Chickamauga battle. Now Lucas is speaking. Chickamauga battlefield. We were seeing signs.
But it was weird because we thought we were turning into the battlefield, but we weren't. We turned into this very odd street called Barnhart.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Barnhart Circle.
Yes.
And it was really weird. First of all, people were living there. There were people like on a porch living in this area, but it was like thick with depressing feeling. Like we were like, what is going on? Like I felt literally depressed energy.
It felt thick with like spirits. So there were like the living people who were sitting around on the porches looking at us like they recognized we were out-of-towners.
Well,
and they were like, what are you doing here? Valid, 100% valid.
But it's so weird how they were living because the street is literally like a circle. It almost reminds me of a track, right? It's shaped in this oval and it's huge. And these houses are around this oval. And people are like sitting on their porch. There's one that looks like almost like a barracks that was an apartment building that we were like, oh, you haunted, yo. Why you so haunted? And then there was like literally like residential homes. So it was very peculiar. And then in the far end of this field, there was a huge building that we would stumble upon. But tell me a little bit about this circle and this like giant cul-de-sacs with old buildings.
Yeah, I mean, you did a really good job just describing it. That's exactly what it was. Whereas a cul-de-sac doesn't have a park in the middle, this circle had a big park in the middle. And the current park has like ball diamonds, like, baseball diamonds, where I suppose you could play baseball or softball or kickball if you have, less.
I love the kickball.
Less athleticism. Kickball is a go-to. Love kickball. But anyway, there was also this covered raised building, kind of like in The Sound of Music when Liesl is dancing with
the gazebo.
Yes, kind of like a big gazebo, but it's bigger than that. And
it looks like the gazebo from the Gilmore Girls.
Okay, yes. A bigger sort of bandstand outdoor structure with a roof that you would expect to have parties and music
It was giving
events.
me bandstand energy, for sure.
Absolutely. We discovered pretty quickly that we were in a historic place, not only because of the look of the buildings, which were clearly built over 100 years ago, but also because we were seeing signs. Some signs were like for rent. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I wouldn't live there.
No.
No offense.
No.
No
And
offense.
other signs were telling you about the historic building. So we pulled over on the circle and we started walking around.
I love Jennifer wrote this outline, and in the outline it says the entire place felt haunted as fuck, scary and not welcoming. Layers of residual energy lingering there.
Didn't it feel that way?
Yeah, no, it's scary as fuck. Yeah, you're right.
But also like layers. Like it wasn't even clear
It's
what era you
true.
were picking up on because
It's
you felt
true.
so many layers.
And it didn't help that that Fort Chickamauga
Yeah.
was so close. It was like perpendicular to where we were.
And we were so confused because we were trying to get to the fort and instead we end up on this weird circle with this weird energy where we weren't wanted. Let's
Yeah.
just be
And,
100% clear.
Yeah, we weren't wanted by the living or the dead. 100%.
But we were walking around and we were kind of looking at the buildings and we were reading we were reading the signs. You, like you said, were drawn to the bandstand in the center of that park.
Everyone likes a good bandstand.
Also, you were picking up on something else really creepy.
Yeah, trigger warning, maybe we should let people know now. I was picking up on the feeling of suicide, the feeling of needing, not even wanting, but believing the need to commit suicide.
Yeah. Yeah. So dark and tragic. And then as we're looking at these buildings, I remember us being drawn to a particular area of the circle. And I remember you in particular saying, that's a hospital. And it was like raised up, but you could still see it. Do you remember?
Yes.
And you're like,
I know
sick
exactly
people
what
were
you're talking
there.
about.
That's a hospital. And
Yes.
and then we were able to look at the map that was...
Yeah, we got a map when we went to the historical, as you turn into this Bernard Circle, or is that what it is? No,
Barnhart.
Barnhart Circle. There's that little historical site building, and you can walk up to it, and it had a realtor's box
Yes.
with a map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
we took a
pulled
map.
it out. But we weren't looking at the map. We
Right.
looked at the map only after we wanted verification in what our feels were feeling.
Right. So we got that right after consulting the map because you were like, that's a hospital. We looked at the map and you were absolutely right. That was a hospital. But there was another building that we were drawn to. And
We did not get this one right.
It was building number 5. Tell me about that.
Building number 5 felt curious, not only to us, but it felt curious about us. There was definitely an exchange of energy we were getting, and we did not know what it was. We did not have the words. There was no way spirit was going to be able to tell us this is what this was used for. So we had to look on the map.
And what it was a house that was used to house German internees during the war.
What's an internee, Jennifer?
Someone who is interred in a camp against their will during wartime.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah.
Our grandparents were internees.
Yes, they were in Germany, but this was in the United States of America. And I was also getting the feeling that the people interned were treated really well. Do you remember me saying that?
Yes. in Building 5, you said these people
Were
felt
treated.
like it felt like camp. What you said.
Anyway,
Yeah, I do remember
which you wouldn't expect.
I didn't expect.
It seemed, I mean, all of this was so unexpected. We were trying to find a battlefield, but I think that saying it sounded weird for me to even say that. Like, that can't be right, but I wrote it down anyway. And
It seems counterintuitive to what it was that we knew we were looking at, right?
Right.
We were looking at a building that held people during war times, and you're like, good times.
yeah, like it feels like camp, like they're treated really well. And I think that's going to make sense later as we get into the outline.
I'm super excited, Jennifer.
Okay,
Can
do you like
tell me
that
about-
foreshadowing?
I do.
Trying to
I
build
really
a little bit of,
Yes,
suspense
yes.
maybe.
So tune in to find out what that means. Jen, tell me a little bit about the circle.
Yeah, Barnhart's Circle. Okay, so here's the story. Barnhart's Circle is actually located within a historic fort called Fort Oglethorpe. Okay? It
Sounds
was
German.
It was a former key U.S. cavalry post. And over the years, the site, Fort Oglethorpe, has served various purposes and witnessed the stories of a very diverse groups of people who have interacted with this place. And so its history is surprisingly rich.
And I think that we felt that day. It did
know we
feel
did.
it did feel very layered.
Very layered.
Yeah, it's thick there. It's thick. Okay, Jennifer.
Okay.
Tell me
start at
about
the
the
beginning.
location. Yes, tell me about the location and how it dates back. Like, where did it start? Where was it born?
Right. Okay. So at the very, very beginning, we have to go back to the Civil War.
Ugh.
Okay. So located in northern Georgia and southeastern Tennessee, that area there that we were traveling around, there were two major Civil War battles fought there in 1863. One
Okay.
was the Battle of Chickamauga, and the second, the Siege of Chattanooga, and they're connected to each other.
Okay, so tell me about the first one. Break it down.
Okay, so there used to be nothing here except for field, but then in September of 1863, there was a significant conflict there during the American Civil War, and it also happened to be one of the bloodiest battles of the entire conflict.
I did not know that.
So here's what happened. As you know, the North, the Union, was fighting the South, right? And Chattanooga.
Also called the Civil War.
Right. Right, exactly. And the city of Chattanooga was really, really important because it had the railroads. And so it was important to the South, to the Confederacy. Okay. And so the Union was like, nuh-uh, you can't keep, like, we want that because we want to use the railroads there and we don't want you to have it. So
And it's just fun to say Chattanooga.
Chattanooga is so fun to say. Right, exactly. So the Union Army attempted to attack and secure the city of Chattanooga, which was a really important transportation hub. But the Confederates were on it. The South was like, nuh-uh. And so they launched a counterattack on the U.S. Army on the North. They were able to break the Union lines on the second day of the battle, and the Union forces had to retreat. So
Damn.
it was a big win for the South. They were.
Is this true, or am I making this up? Was this the second deadliest battle in the Civil War after Gettysburg? Am I making that up?
I want to say you're right, but I'm not sure. I think the way they count like bloodiest battles is a little different. I think it kind of depends on the sources, but I do think Gettysburg or Antietam. I know Antietam was really bloody too.
Eesh. Okay,
Yeah,
go on.
but anyway, I think you're right. So anyway, huge win for the South, right?
Right.
Only
That was
the
a
Union,
Confederate victory. For
Confederate victory. However, the Union didn't give up. They just regrouped. So like they lost land, but then they settled in Chattanooga anyway, and they
Sure.
regrouped.
They get knocked down, they get up again.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. And if you know anything about this conflict, you'll know that the Union had more men and more resources than the South. So whereas the South, it was harder for them to regroup and keep going, the North had so much more. They were just able to do that. So what happened was they settled down in Chattanooga, and they're like, okay, we're just going to settle down here. Like you pushed us back, but we're not leaving. And so they regrouped. And during that time, the South organized a siege, which is basically like a big wall around it, right? So like no resources can get in or out. So they're trying to starve them, basically. Like people forget that when you have an army, that's really hard to maintain. You have to feed your army. You have to water your army. You have to you need like new shoes. You need new boots. You can't just like have an army and expect it to perform if you can't like take care of it.
Or ammunition. You need ammunition. You need
so many
all
things.
Kinds,
yes.
So many resources.
Yes. So they're hunkered down, but the South is like, haha. And so they create this like siege situation where nothing can get in or out. And so now the Union Army is starving, right? And this is all on the same location, right?
Makes me hungry just thinking about.
So it was a big problem for the Union, and their army is starving until Major General Ulysses S. Grant, sometimes known
Have you heard of him?
as the future president of the United States and one of our worst. Ulysses S. Grant was a terrible president, as it turns out, but he was really good on the battlefield, and he was able to open a supply route. So he saved the Union Army. They were able to get food and get everything they need, and they ended up launching a successful assault against the Southerners. They broke the siege, and ultimately they secured a victory at Chattanooga.
And it was a humbug for the Union forces then.
Yes, that's exactly right. And it was one of the battles that turned the tide of the entire war. So all that happened right in the area where we were, the future area of Fort Oglethorpe. So then here's what happened next. Okay, so then the war is over. We know the North wins. By the 1890s, U.S. Congress is like, you know what? We lost a lot of men in these battlefields. A lot of shit happened. What we should be doing is commemorating this. Like these big areas that were battlefields, we shouldn't forget that. We should make them into national military parks. And so there was a big push in the 1890s to do that. And
I appreciate that, to be honest.
For sure. For sure. We shouldn't forget all of the blood spilled in these places. But as it turns out, the very first of these national military parks, and the largest, was at the site of the Battle of Chickamauga and the Siege of Chattanooga.
That's insane.
Yeah. So where we were,
just stumble upon
the biggest, the first, and it actually turned out to be like the blueprint for future national military parks.
Very cool.
It was authorized in 1890 and dedicated in 1895. Okay. And it was a really important and significant step in preserving our nation's history, our military history. But then, so you have this park, it's finally dedicated, 1895. And then, but we're in other wars too after that, right?
Uh-huh.
So the military is like, well, where are we going to train all these horses for our cavalry in 1898, right? Because we're in the Spanish-American War and then World Wars I and II. And so the United States military is like, well, we have this big space right next to Chattanooga, which is still a major transportation port. We should just put the military there. And so that's what they did. It's kind of like recycling, which is, as you know, a really good idea.
It is a very good idea.
So that's what they did. They basically recycled this area. And during the Spanish-American War and World Wars I and II, they used the same area to train cavalry, to do training of other types of troops and things. And this military post was named Fort Oglethorpe. The name came from the founder of the colony of Georgia.
Okay, but are we still talking about Barnhart Circle?
Yes, because Barnhart Circle is or was the very heart of Fort Oglethorpe. And by the way, the circle itself sits very close to the Chickamauga battlefield.
They're adjacent, literally. They're like touching borders.
which is why we got lost trying to get to the
Exactly.
battlefield. So I think that alone is significant because you get, I believe, the vibes of that bloody, bloody battle in the heart of the fort where, as it turns out, other shit's going to go down.
Well, tell me historically about the circle.
Okay, so historically, Barnhart Circle formed the heart of the fort, Fort Oglethorpe. It was completed in 1904, and it was hailed as the largest and finest cavalry post in the United States. There were 74 buildings built.
Oh, wow.
At a cost of not 100 million, 1 million. It housed 50 commissioned officers, and you know the officers' houses are going to be nice. Right? And
They were back then, I'm sure.
over 1,000 enlisted men also lived there, and 1,000 horses. This was super, super impressive. So you have all of this building going on. Barnhart Circle was the heart of it. Now,
The largest and the finest.
Barnhart Circle had been the site of cavalry training. So that space in the middle, training horses, training mounted horse whisperers.
Offensive.
Horse, what do you call it? Jockeys? Kind of? Not really jockeys. Cavalry people. Cavalry men.
Okay. Yeah, go to our
Okay.
YouTube channel to watch Jennifer be ridiculous.
No, but also over the years, polo matches. Because what else are you going to do if you're on a horse? You have to have some fun,
I
right?
mean, if you're on a horse, what are you going to do? You can do the joust.
Oh, you could do the joust.
I
That
would
have been
have
fun.
watched a joust.
They could have had like a medieval time sort of situation set
Oh,
up.
that would have been great.
So what is polo? Is that with the big long mallets? Do you like hit?
Yeah.
You hit
Yeah.
balls?
Is it like, what do you call
Mallets.
that they were, yeah.
It's like croquet on horses.
Is it croquette?
I think the French would say croquet.
Okay, well, yeah, it's exactly that on horses.
Okay, all right.
And it's annoying.
Also, they would do like military parades, military marches. So that big space that we saw now that has baseball diamonds on it used to be used for military exercises. And it would house all the officers around in those big, distinctive homes that are still there. And then don't forget the bandstand. The bandstand was created to hold a 28-piece band.
Knew it. Called it. I was like, that is a bandstand if I've ever seen one.
Bandstand. And in 1920, it was fitted with electric lights. We're moving on up. So, of course, today there are ball fields, and there's also spaces for community events. They use that field for community events today. But Barnhart Circle, as we know, still features 21 of the original officers' quarters that were built in the early 1900s, as well as the original bandstand building.
Okay. So there obviously isn't all the old structures there today. We just seen, like you said, 21 of them.
Right.
So what other structures were there, and are they commemorating them the way?
That's an interesting question. So I was doing a little research online about Barnhart Circle for this outline.
You did a fantastic job, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Really, yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'm so glad you like it. Barnhart Circle is also home to other historic buildings, but they often go unmentioned on official tourism websites and online resources.
So these structures weren't on the map that we were looking at.
They were on the map, some of them, but they're not like come and see this sort of thing. Like if you go to the tourism websites, if you go to like the historic Barnhart Circle, you know, like the, what is it called?
Official
Marketing, like, you know, official tourism marketing, they don't mention some of the structures. And the ones they don't really mention and are like, come see, are the surviving structures still there.
still there.
That served to contain prisoners of war and, quote, alien enemies when Fort Oglethorpe served as an internment camp.
I did not see this coming.
Yeah.
Okay. When did the fort serve as an internment camp?
So glad you asked, Jill. At the start of World War I in Europe, it was August 1914. The United States started detaining Germans under certain international rules. Okay? So now in 1914, the United States hadn't joined World War I yet.
No, we were trying to be like legit neutral.
Neutral, exactly.
Yeah.
But there were still rules in the international community of how neutral countries needed to act towards the
certain nationalities.
right, the warring, the countries at war. And so the United States was forbidden to harbor hostile forces. Okay, so what does that mean? You can't like keep them safe.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
All right. So
that's fair.
I mean, I would think so. So the British and the Japanese were fighting the Germans. And when the British and Japanese navies forced German warships into American ports, the United States couldn't like keep them safe, but they were obligated to like hold them in American waters. And basically,
it's all
their
very
crews,
complicated.
Their crews were stuck on the ships, so they had to. It was just like, stay where you are, don't move. Like, we're not going to like take you and imprison you or do anything because you're not really part of this. But you can't go anywhere, so you're just going to stay where you are. And at that point, in April 1917, here's where things change, because you have had German warships like just in American ports that honestly they were kind of okay with it in a way, because to go back out in the ocean waters meant that then they would be attacked by the British and Japanese. So they're kind of all right. You know what I mean?
They would have to engage.
Yes.
Right.
So they were kind of okay with it until April 1917. That's when the United States enters the war and declares war on Germany. And then at that point, all of the crews from the German warships that were sitting in the ports for years, now suddenly they're prisoners of war. And now the United States has to take them and treat them according to the rules of prisoners of war. Got it?
Got it.
So suddenly we have all of these German naval people, so sailors and officers.
Well, you really don't want them. You don't want your warring country sitting at your ports
in a warship.
Prepared to like fuck some shit up. So I think, it's not pretty, but that makes sense.
Right. But the other thing is, it wasn't just warships that were like on our ports. There were also like luxury German ships and merchant ships. So you have commercial ships also in our ports from Germany, and German luxury ships that have like German rich people on their luxury ship.
They were sitting there for the very same reason, because they did not want to engage with the forces at sea. So they were like, nope, we're just going to chill.
We're just going to hang out in America until, America declared war on us too. And now they weren't prisoners of war, because it was a different, like, it wasn't the military in the United States that was in charge of them. It was a different government body. But the point was, now you're the enemy. Now you're enemy civilians. And now we need to deal with you.
Oh, wow.
So at first, now the thing is, at first, before America joined the war, these merchants and luxury crews and people were able to come into U.S. port cities. They were able to move around. But then after 1917, the United States authorities detained and confined over 2,000 of these German crewmen from the merchant ships and the luxury liners. And they sent them to internment camps because they didn't know what else to do with them. Like, what do you do with them? You have to put them somewhere.
Yeah.
But now here's the kicker. Because you can almost, I don't know, what do you think? Can you almost understand, like, logically, like, that makes sense so far?
No, it's not pretty, but it makes sense.
It makes sense. Like, we're at war. You're literally the enemy.
Right.
We have to do something.
you can't just sit on our docks. You can't just sit on the dock of the bay wasting time when your country and our country are
Right.
fighting. You can't do that,
Right.
right? So, I mean, it's not pretty, but I understand it. It's logical.
Right. But then there was a third group of Germans, that were also targeted for incarceration after America entered World War I. And these were civilian enemy aliens.
What does that mean?
That means they weren't part of the German military, but they were Germans, either German or German Americans who had broken the law, or if they didn't break the law, they were still judged, quote unquote, too dangerous to be free.
So we're potentially talking about German Americans?
We are.
American citizens.
Potentially, yes. Who are German.
Who are German,
ethnically.
Yes. The same way we're Polish ethnically.
Yeah, I think that's arguable, but yes. So on the day...
Okay, better, our mom.
Our mom would be a much better example because we were like born and raised here. We're kind of American legit, but mom would be suspect if you know.
If we were at war with Poland.
If we were at war with Poland and she was here, speaks Polish, lives in a Polish neighborhood.
Okay.
Clearly
I don't
Polish
like
customs. That. Okay. So on the day Congress declared war on Germany, President Woodrow Wilson issued a proclamation. And it imposed strict restrictions on these alien enemies. And here were the prohibitions. Here were the rules. These alien enemies were prohibited from possessing firearms, bombs.
I mean, well,
explosives.
Why do you don't need a bomb or an explosive.
Yeah, not for anything good. So far, I'm with
Yeah.
you, Woodrow. I'm with you.
Although the Second Amendment, if these people were
Americans?
citizens, yes, if they were American citizens at this point, the Second Amendment would be violated if you took or would forbid them to have firearms. But that, I mean, I'm not a fan of the Second Amendment, but I'm just saying technically you
Valid
are kind of
argument.
going against the Constitution.
Yeah, technically valid argument. They were also forbidden from operating airplanes. They were forbidden from operating any wireless communication devices like radio.
Oh, I can see that.
Or any sort of signaling equipment like telegraph or anything like that.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, if I were German at this time and people were just freaked out by the fact that I'm German American, I wouldn't want any of that shit by me. I'd be like, nope, I am vanilla. I am American. I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy. I don't need any of that stuff by me. I don't want you to suspect me at all.
Right. Agreed. Now, additionally, they were barred from entering within a half mile of any fort.
Again,
or arsenal, or aircraft station, Navy yard, munitions factory, or any other location the president deemed as prohibited. So basically, these are war locations of warfare, supplies.
I'm okay with all of it. This seems reasonable.
And if they already lived in one of these zones near a fort or a municipal factory, etc., they had to move. I mean, that sucks.
That really does suck. But again, if I were German American at the time, I would be like, well, this sucks hard, but I don't want to be thought.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to be
I'm on
thought
your
to be
side,
an enemy.
America.
Yes.
Yes.
Alien enemies could face immediate arrest if there was any reasonable suspicion that they were intending to aid the enemy, or violating criminal laws or presidential regulations, or posing a threat to public peace and safety. Could be immediately arrested if there was reasonable suspicion of this.
That seems very vague, and I think there may be other constitutional liberties that are being squashed with that one. I'm not liking that.
That does seem rather vague. It's the suspicion. Reasonable suspicion. Who's doing the deciding?
The analysis.
Right. Are there the neighbors? Are their neighbors suspicious and then they could just call it in? And what's reasonable? I don't know. But that's pretty vague. Now, by the end of the war, federal authorities had arrested over 6,000 people under these provisions.
And again, these are German Americans.
Yeah. Under suspicion of breaking laws or intending to aid the enemy or threatening public peace and safety. Now, here's what you need to know.
I just want to clear something up because we are posting this on YouTube. The woman in green, dark green, like an army green, that is Jennifer.
Oh,
that is Jennifer James.
yes.
And I am Jill Stanley.
Yes, because the names say Jill and Jill.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad we cleared that up.
Okay.
So I do want to talk about this one thing, because in this setup, your neighbor could report you.
Yeah.
If they didn't like you and you were German, they could just report you and be like, hey, my German neighbor is suspicious. I think they're in cahoots with the enemy. And then the authorities would have enough reason to pick them up and detain them.
Yeah, that's absolutely sus. And I can't. 1900s in America, this is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, a lot of freedom. And we're not talking about immigrants. We are talking about people that are American citizens that went through the process correctly.
Well, immigrants could become Americans. Yes, immigrated.
Right.
That's
but we're
exactly
not talking
what we're
about
talking
like
about.
We're not talking about
Illegals.
people that exactly.
Yeah.
We're
not
talking about people
illegals.
Already been vetted, could have been here for 30, 40
Right.
years already, and they speak with an accent.
Now, these days, we're still talking about immigration for obvious reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big hot topic in the United States. Today, the groups that are most targeted by these arguments against immigration are those from Latin American countries and Mexico, right?
Yes.
But at this time, it was the Germans. German American citizens faced widespread harassment, discrimination, and acts of violence. Even before the war, Germans were the single largest ethnic group that immigrated to the United States between the time of the Civil War and the start of World War I. It was Germans. 250,000 Germans immigrated in 1882 alone. This was a huge wave of immigration, and it strained certain local economies, sparking criticism, resentment, and discrimination. So when the U.S. Attorney General gave power to local unpaid volunteers to round up, quote, disloyal German aliens, guess what? They did so with gusto.
Shit. This is a very timely story. Holy shit.
Right? All right, just
That's
hold
really
on.
bad.
Hold
That's
on.
really, really bad.
That's really, really
scary.
bad.
That's scary bad.
That's really, really bad.
That's witch hunt bad.
That's witch hunt bad. Because
And
now
you
it's
don't
the
get
law.
witch hunt bad.
Now
yeah.
it's the law.
Now it's expected of you. Oof. That's bad,
So
guys.
let's talk about how this worked. These individuals, these legitimate German immigrants, were often detained without evidence of any wrongdoing. Because remember, you just needed to be under suspicion, reasonable suspicion. And it was part of a widespread anti-German sentiment that was growing during the war. And these targeted individuals included, okay, so here's some of the people that were targeted. Members of this radical labor union party, the industrial workers of the world. So if you were part of this labor union party, you were already suspect.
Jesus.
Because it doesn't surprise you, perhaps, that the people who are leading these local witch hunt organizations are the business owners, right?
Doesn't surprise me at all. It seems
No. So
Seems
they're
check
rounding
out.
up. They're rounding up members of the labor union. Also, if you were German and in the Socialist Party, yeah, you would be picked up because that's sus.
yeah, because just that word will give you hives in America.
Any member of an anti-war group, so any peace group member, you're going to be picked up.
Wow.
Any member of any pro-German groups or clubs. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a pro-German club. I don't know one.
I don't know of any German pastimes. Like if there was a German dance troupe, you'd probably be rounded up.
My God.
Some
German
Germans
sausage making. German butcher.
being a little, what's the word? Stereotypical German. They didn't all make sausage and eat pretzels.
Some of them did, I know.
Some Germans were detained simply because they held positions of prominence or power, including wealthy businessmen, journalists, academics, artists, and it seems like any German who was too smart or too skilled in any area would have been rounded up because that would have been dangerous.
I hate to say that we gave the second wave of Germans in World War II a lot of ideas. Just fucking saying.
Here are some examples of the enemy aliens who were arrested and detained and sent to internment camps. Okay. There was a man named Jonathan Zennick, who was a radio specialist. He was way too skilled to remain at large, and so he was picked up and detained.
That sucks to be good at your job.
He was too good at his job.
He slayed too hard, bro. You can't slay that hard.
Making the rest of us look bad. Count Albrecht Monteglas. He was a former newspaper editor for the San Francisco Examiner and the Chicago Examiner. But he was German.
He sounds really important, and I would totally marry the Count. And I call him Al.
Yeah. No, he was a newspaper editor and therefore had to be picked up. Although he was for two United States papers.
Well, again, like this is somebody who is Americanized. This is not somebody who's like, go German, go German. This is someone who's living his life and has been living here as an American citizen for years. Wow. That's like really messed up.
So then there was Dr. Karl Oskar Bertling. He, unfortunately, held a master's degree from Harvard. He's too smart, I'll tell you already. Dude's too smart for his own good.
Dude.
He was considered dangerous because he had written books on the military systems of Germany and German-American relations. And because of that, he knew too much.
Nope, you don't want to do that. I would capture him to be like, we need your help. You know what I mean? Like, help us understand what's going to happen.
It's not what happens.
They're
like, you're too smart, bro. Getting locked up.
Why you got to be so smart? You go to Harvard, bro? You go to Harvard? What? Nerd? Why you got to be a nerd?
And then Karl Muck. Karl Muck was the conductor of the Boston Symphony Orchestra.
I can't even believe it.
He faced accusations because he refused to perform the Star-Spangled Banner at a concert. No, bro.
God,
it's like you're making us arrest you. Why? This is like out of The Sound of Music.
That's what I'm saying. Like America did it first.
Stop.
Stop. I'm serious.
Stop.
I'm serious.
You can't
Jennifer.
say we did it first without knowing the rest of what was going on in other places.
Outline?
In the other places in the world.
I see. I'm talking about when we look at World War II and we think of the things that were happening, it just seems that this is really equivalent to some of the ways that they segregated and othered, you know what I mean? Like otherized groups of people and cultures.
Yeah.
That's
I wouldn't say we did it first. We did not invent this. We certainly did it. We certainly did it. Let's keep going because you don't expect America to act like this.
I'm in shock. I'm really like.
So you didn't read the outline? Is that what you're telling me? Let's keep going. Don't answer that.
I skimmed it twice.
Lord.
What do you want from me?
You Jill skimmed it?
Twice.
That means you are not prepared if you Jill skimmed it.
I think no one would know I wasn't
Jill
prepared until
skimming
you
is basically like
you just.
It's like
honestly,
it's like you put your head on the outline for a couple hours.
No, you have to rub it.
Okay. All right. Okay, so you might ask, so where were these detainees sent?
Well, Jennifer.
Yes?
Because I'm a smart cookie, I know where they sent these detainees.
Where'd they send them?
To detention centers.
The U.S. War Department selected 3 Army posts in the United States that served as internment camps. And these were for not only prisoners of war, in other words, German sailors and German officers, but also the alien enemies who were civilians deemed dangerous. Okay? And most of the naval prisoners of war, most of the German soldiers and officers were sent to Fort McPherson in Georgia. But the civilians or alien enemies, most of them were sent to 1 or 2 of the remaining forts, Fort Douglas in Utah, and of course, our fort, Fort Oglethorpe in Georgia. Although Fort Oglethorpe would get some POWs during its operation. So I want to make that clear.
The inmates at our fort were
Yes.
mostly civilians.
Yes.
German
Yes, they were.
businessmen.
Yes.
German American businessmen, journalists, academics,
Yes.
artists, musicians.
Yes. Yes.
Like everyday people.
Yes. Smart. No, the best. Better than everyday people. They were the smartest and like the most educated Germans and German Americans that they could round up and put them at our fort. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yes.
Oh, my Lord. And then, of course, anyone under suspicion of being too German at the time. was
Right.
there too.
Anti-American, any socialist, any pro-labor union. Yeah. You would also be there.
Okay. So what kind of internment camp was Fort, what's the name of the fort?
Oglethorpe.
I don't know if I can say it. Let me say it. Fort Oglethorpe.
Oh, lovely. And I love the accents too. You sound 10% smarter.
Fort Oglethorpe.
Well, let me tell you what life was like.
Please.
It might surprise you. So the internment camp at why do I keep saying Fort Oglethorpe was, okay, so it
Say
was.
it with an accent because it's easier to say Fort Oglethorpe.
Fort Oglethorpe.
Yes, it's like Maggie Smith has just walked into the room.
10% smarter. Fort Oglethorpe. Okay, so it was basically a vast field surrounded by barbed wire fences that were 10 feet high.
And that's never good. Barbed wire is never a sign of something good.
And guard towers. Guard towers with machine guns were on the perimeter, okay?
That's unsettling. I don't like that.
So like a prison, basically.
Yeah, I would have anxiety just seeing that.
Right. Also, the searchlights constantly were sweeping over the area throughout the night.
My God. This is like...
Yeah, this is prison
This is
stuff.
like... Yeah,
Not
like
cushy.
old-timey prison stuff.
Yes.
Like, this is like for real.
Now, the population, of course, would go up and down, right? This isn't it would just depend on who was sent there at the time. But according to the War Department's 1919 annual report, the camp housed approximately 3,600 internees.
That's a lot.
Life within the camp was very strictly regimented. So you couldn't
Like
do
prison.
what you wanted to do. Exactly, like prison. Each day began at 5:45 a.m.
That sucks.
with a bugle call
That sucks so
and
hard.
a roll call. Your meals were served at set times, lights out at 10 p.m. And it was a rigid daily routine. You were not in charge of your own time.
Yeah, that is prison.
That's a long day for you. I'm just thinking about you personally.
I know. I was thinking 10 p.m. I was like, that's a little late. I mean, how are we feeling about 8?
Yeah.
Give me 8.
No, you would have been exhausted.
What did they do all day? My God.
Well, all of the internees at the camp were not treated the same. And it was actually divided into 3 separate camps: Camp A, Camp B, and Camp C. And there was friction between the camps.
Okay. Well, if you're not treating everyone equally, I can see why other people would be pissed. Okay.
So Camp A, that was nicknamed the Millionaires Camp.
That's the one that if I had to be there, I want to be Camp A. Camp
Yes.
A.
There were only 90 internees in this camp, and all of them could afford to pay for their own care.
I couldn't be in Camp A.
No. So this camp included those individuals who were just too influential, too powerful, too knowledgeable to remain
This
at
is the
large.
Harvard guy. This is Harvard.
And their food was purchased, prepared, and served by private cooks.
Oh, that's nice.
Dinner music was played in their dining hall by a
Ooh.
pianist. Sounds dirty, but it's not.
It's pretty dirty.
No one in Camp A was required to work.
I wish I can afford Camp A. Okay, give me my second option.
All right, Camp B.
Okay.
Camp
Behind
B,
door number B.
by comparison, was very crowded and very uncomfortable. So Camp B had 670 internees at the time of this assessment. And those internees occupied 7 barracks. So you're talking about a little under 100 men
People
per barrack.
barrack.
Each barrack was 2 stories, and it held a capacity of 100 men. It was a very open concept, ahead of its time in that regard.
I was going to say probably noisy. Open concepts are so noisy.
So noisy. I'm over
you don't
it.
get any privacy. Not at all.
When I go to sleep at night, I make my husband turn off all electronics in the entire house and turn off all the lights. He literally walks around in the dark using his cell phone as a flashlight when I go to sleep at like 9:30.
Wow, Miss Hannigan.
Because
was
my
there
house
too much
is open.
joy?
My house is open concept. So you hear
Did you
everything.
hear happiness
You
out
see-
there?
You see every light. It sucks. Open concept, not a good idea. And it's like a waste of heat. I could go on. We need to go back to like the Victorian times where there were smaller, cozy rooms, but a lot of them. And you could like
Yeah.
stay in one heated room and not waste your heat on the rest of the house.
Yeah, I like a Chicago bungalow myself.
Yeah. Anyway. So the barracks were very open concept, and the men slept very close together in a large, unpartitioned area.
Men are already gross. Then you get that many men close together.
Oh, could you
Ugh.
imagine the smell?
The smell.
Oh,
No.
BO alone.
Ugh. Well, I know where the old urine's coming from.
The men were always complaining about the comfort level in the barracks in Camp B. It was too hot in the summer, and it was way too cold in the winter, so they were never comfortable.
That's
And
quite a disparaging gap from private cook pianist and then like this, because B pretty much sucks.
B pretty much sucks. Now, the food, it was adequate, but there was a lot of complaints about the quality of the food. It often didn't have meat. It often didn't have wheat. So basically like gruel. You know what I mean? But I mean, they're feeding them, but no meat, no wheat a lot of times. And if you were in Camp B, you would be forced to do the mandatory camp work for maintenance of the camp. Okay?
Nope.
Now, there was extra money to be had if you wanted to do extra work. And the only 2 options would be working on the access road to the camp. So working on a road, what does that look like to you?
Hard work.
Like a chain gang, right? Like
Yeah.
I just see in my head pickaxes and digging up rocks. Like that's
That's
hard work. Or there was a nearby rock quarry. You could work in the rock quarry. So you might have the mandatory jobs of working on the road or the rock quarry, but you could earn extra money if you signed up for extra shifts.
Absolutely not.
But those are the only
And-
2 types of work you could do for
And
Camp
this
B.
is I was going to say this is Camp B. So we still got C, and Camp B already sounds like hell. So see me, what's happening in C?
Well, C was for people who were being punished. It was the punishment barracks. When there was an
God,
inspection.
It already seems like B is a punishment.
There was an inspection in June of 1818, and it found that there were 83 inmates in Camp C at the time of this particular inspection. If you were in Camp C and you were being punished, then you only got half rations, and you weren't permitted the option to earn extra money by doing any extra work. So you didn't have that privilege. Mm-hmm. In fact, the 83 inmates that were in the Camp C at the time of this inspection in June of 1918 were there because they refused to work in the rock quarry.
To volunteer
Yes.
in bunny ears in the rock quarry.
Yeah, volunteer. So it wasn't like they wanted extra work. They were told you need to volunteer to work in the rock quarry. And they were like, hell no, we're were not doing that. And so they were being punished and kept in Camp C.
And they only had half of the gruel.
They only had half of the rations. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
It must have been an unhappy place.
I think that the people there would have rather been somewhere else. However, it actually became, surprisingly, a thriving community with a vibrant culture, if you can believe that.
I cannot believe it. Because I'm
Oglethorpe.
depressed. I'm depressed hearing about this.
Well, I can understand that. But the internees were free to organize sports clubs, recreational competitions, and they even had their own school where they offered courses in Italian, Arabic, physiology, physics, Spanish, and Japanese.
That's way cool.
Because remember, you had like really smart, talented people as the internees.
What a waste. Like, just such a waste.
Not only that, there was a regular schedule of public lectures that they had on a variety of subjects.
Oh my gosh, Harvard, shut up.
Right. Right?
Like, really again?
They held chess tournaments at 3 different class levels. So they assessed your level of chess and you were in like one of 3 leagues.
I would be a spectator.
Yeah, you would not be playing chess, nor would I.
Like, checkers, anyone?
Jill, they even formed theatrical groups. I know, there was one for serious dramatic subjects, as well as a comedy production group.
Yes, and?
They also formed choral societies, so singing groups, 3 orchestras, and they put together a regularly published literary journal.
Oh my gosh, these prisoners are funny.
There was a camp magazine also.
Oh my gosh.
The camp magazine put out 10 editions total between October 1918 and 1919. I love that it took them a little while to organize this because the first edition didn't come out until May of 1918. The editor was, of course, the only professional writer that was in the camp. And it was printed on very poor quality paper. But they were able to sell the 100 copies of each edition. Each edition was 30 pages. They sold the magazine for 25 cents. And then profits were used to aid the inmates that didn't have any financial means.
Wow. Well, that's, I kind of love these guys. They're like, we'll help you. We're going to sell the magazine.
Right?
That's amazing.
It really is amazing that they were able to pull this off. And the magazine, of course, it was censored. So you had like the U.S. authorities in charge censoring it. So you couldn't say whatever you wanted. But still, some of it survives. And it's a very important source still today about the life of these internees during World War I at Fort Oglethorpe.
I was going to ask you if any were still surviving.
Yes.
That's really cool. Okay, I'm not saying life would be easy, especially if I were in C, but they had a lot of freedom and a lot of fun too.
Especially if you were in Camp A. I feel like a lot of this was driven by the academics and the skilled people who had the money and the free time in Camp A, but they didn't just keep it to themselves. They opened it up to, obviously, Camp B. Camp C, they would have been in trouble. And I think you bring up a really good point. I want to say this. Compared to what the Germans were doing to American POWs in Europe during the same war, as well as what would happen during World War II for Japanese Americans and, of course, the Jewish people throughout Europe, this is a very unique situation happening in Fort Oglethorpe. Still, it wasn't all games and roses. What's the expression? Roses
Games and
I don't know what the expression is. It wasn't
I
all
don't even know
fun
what
and
you're
games.
going for.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. It's fun and games.
Yeah, it wasn't all fun and games. There were a lot of risks associated with being at this internment camp.
I can see that, but be specific. Like what?
Okay, so you could get physically sick or psychologically ill.
If you had to work on the quarry, I would be sick as fuck. I would be dry heaving.
Right. Well, work on the quarry, of course, even work on the road. But remember, conditions were often too hot in the summer, too cold in the winter. And then you had the monotonous diet. So you weren't getting like the best nutrition. And sanitation facilities
Oh, God.
That-
Please don't. I'm going to.
Yeah, that was not the best. And then you had incompetent and sporadic medical care for the internees. And so all of this could certainly lead to illness.
Ew.
But I have to say this, and this isn't in the outline, but there was an outside group. I think it was the Swiss, because you know how the Swiss were like neutral. Mm-hmm. And they came and they like inspected from time to time the camps in the United States. And then the internees would like write angry letters to them like, hey, you know, like this is what's happening. And they would come and the authorities at Fort Oglethorpe would respond. And so they did take action to address some of these dire conditions. There was this big typhoid outbreak that happened at a different internment camp, and they recognized that it was the poor water source. And so they completely redid the indoor showers, the latrines, and they even put in an emergency hospital barracks for the inmates. So they were able to improve things. Still, there was that global influenza pandemic, and in 1918, it hit every part of the world. But people who were sleeping right next to 100 other people were particularly at risk. And so 26 men died in 1918 due to the influenza epidemic. Mm-hmm. And hundreds more were hospitalized. So physical illness was a thing. But arguably, it was the psychological illnesses that were the most troubling.
What are you talking about?
Well, after a period of being confined, even if it's in a cushy camp like Camp A, many internees started to experience symptoms that pointed to mental illness, later known as barbed wire sickness.
I did a lot of research on this.
Do you want to talk about it?
No, I want you to. I'm just telling you, like, it's
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
It's creepy, too, to think. Yeah, no, go on.
So these symptoms were varied. Like, they looked really different from person to person. But basically, it's these internees developed severe anxiety, suspicion, impatience, moodiness, lack of concentration, lack of interest in anything, lack of interest in life. And so far, like, that sounds like you or me on a bad day.
Literally, I was just like, check. Okay.
But it also included delusions, hysteria, raving. So they would get raving mad. I mean, again, on a bad day.
I've been there.
Yeah. And betrayal of each other. Like if someone was planning an escape, like they would betray each other. And there'd be like suspicions and hallucinations amongst themselves. And dozens of men were transferred to St. Elizabeth's Asylum for the Insane in Washington, D.C. from Fort Oglethorpe. And some men took their own lives. And one of the most troubling things about that, Jill, is I can't find any data. And I was reading scholarly journals on this. And there is very little data. Very little data. They didn't
keep data at the time. Yeah. That was one of the things that you can't get a clear answer to how many people were actually committing suicide at the time in this area.
Yeah.
So did any of the men come through in your research?
Jill, yes. Yes.
Who?
During this research, a Dr. Weber came through. Now, Jill, you had initially found a very short blurb in a newspaper about his death, but it didn't really say anything about him aside from he took his own life. But I was obsessed with finding out more about Dr. Weber. And
he's a heartbreaker.
After an exhaustive search where I ended up like signing up for these academic journals, you know the kind
where it's
like
exactly what
they give
about.
You like 2 paragraphs and you're hooked, and then they're like, now in order to keep reading, you need to sign us up. Well, I bought a subscription because I needed to know. And so I found a thesis paper out of the Georgia Southern University. And still I don't know everything about Dr. Weber, but here's what I did find out. Are you ready?
Go on. I know. Go on.
Dr. Albrecht Weber was a man who had been known for his joyful nature before the war. He was interned early in the conflict and was initially held at Hot Springs, North Carolina, before he was transferred to Fort Oglethorpe in Georgia. His time in the camps left a profound impact on him, and his fellow internees noted a noticeable shift in his demeanor, a transformation that unfolded over the course of his detention. On April 28, 1919, Weber was discovered lying in a pool of his own blood on the bathroom floor of his barracks, his throat slashed with a razor. His death prompted camp authorities to assemble a panel to investigate the circumstances. Was it tragic suicide or was it an act of foul play? Well, the board convened and conducted an investigation into the circumstances surrounding Weber's death, and they called multiple witnesses to testify about the events leading up to and immediately following his passing, including the officer who responded to the prisoner's call for help. Testimonies painted a picture of a man who had once been happy before the war, but whose spirit had been worn down by his experiences in the American internment camps. Witnesses described Weber as increasingly agitated and deeply depressed, with some recounting remarks made by him about suicide being his only escape. Despite his struggles, Dr. Weber was noted to have no apparent enemies on camp. The panel determined that Dr. Albrecht Weber's death was caused by self-inflicted injuries from a razor, carried out with suicidal intent. And they concluded that he was mentally competent at the time of his death, but reached no conclusion regarding the motive behind his actions, as if he needed more of a motive. He died at Fort Oglethorpe on April 28th, 1919.
1919?
1919.
Didn't the war end already in 1918?
Ding, 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 ding. Yes, Jill. The war did end in November 1918. And at the time, yeah.
Well, why was he still in the camp?
Exactly.
See, I understand why he went crazy. Like, that makes sense. If you're like, the war is over, why am I still here? And like every day you're anticipating getting out and you've been there like a year. Like, yeah, I would be depressed and fucking crazy too. Especially if I had to hear Harvard speeches and chess playing all day. Like, oh my God, get me out of here.
Yeah. When the war ended in 1918, the inmates were like, all right, great. Let's go home. Like, shit's over. But the United States government had to wait until all the peace treaties were signed.
Jesus.
And so that took some time to sign all the peace treaties. It took 6 months. But then they still weren't released after 6 months because there were transportation shortages and administrative red tape. And, there was a lot of lingering anxieties about letting all these prisoners of war and alien enemies free.
Oh, my God.
Finally, a repatriation agreement was signed in May 1919. And the U.S. passed a deportation act, a plan to deport all of these internees. Yet, Jill, hundreds would remain in the camps until April of 1920.
That's crazy insane.
That's criminal at that point.
Well, how are you going to deport some American citizens too? Like, literally, they're like, well, we got them round up. We just got to put them on a plane, get them out of here.
1920.
Who do you think our voiceless is?
I have to go through to Dr. Albrecht Weber. I feel like I was obsessed with finding out more about him after that 3-sentence article in the paper about him.
I feel bad because did I not put that in there?
You did.
No, I mean the rest of it because I knew, like, I had research on all that.
No.
Oh, sorry.
No.
I printed it.
No. That's fine. Now I belong to this scholarly journal where I can read as much scholarly thesis as I want. But Dr. Weber was a prisoner at the internment camps, and he took his own life because of how that experience changed him for the worst. And also, like, the war was over and he still wasn't released. And he's buried at Chattanooga National Cemetery in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And Jill, his grave is so simple. It's just a white headstone that says 60 and his name,
How would you
Albrecht
ever
Weber.
know that was him? Oh, okay.
It says Albrecht Weber. And 60. 60 is just the name of the plot. That's the number of his plot. That's it. There's no date of birth. There's no date of death. There's nothing about, was he a husband, a father? What kind of a doctor was he? I have no idea. Incidentally, there are 78 German prisoners of war from World War I that are buried at the Chattanooga National Cemetery in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Were they actually prisoners of war or were they internees?
That's a good question. According to the website, it says prisoners of war. Now, also, it's not only Dr. Weber, I think, but all of the internees who took their own lives because of their internment at Fort Oglethorpe that we don't even know about.
I know.
Their plights were not documented and their stories completely lost.
Not only that, but we're also calling them alien enemies.
Yeah, all the so-called alien enemies, how about who did nothing wrong, who were just too smart or too skilled or like unliked by their neighbors? There's so many voiceless here. It's hard to pick just one.
Well, and there's so many voiceless and so many undocumented names and people and lives that were snuffed out because really stupidity. This, like at first when we were going over Woodrow Wilson's like explanations of like what you can do, what you can't do, it was getting a little sus. Like I was like, that's a constitutional right. But then it's like you guys went way too hard. And the real crime is that some of these people could have helped in the war effort. That's the real crime. Like you should have sat down Harvard and been like, okay, tell me about how Germans strategize and what we can do to fight back or, catch them off guard.
Yeah. And I think part of the problem was the United States government literally giving the power to locals to round up who they deemed quote unquote suspicious.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
That they literally did that.
They created a witch hunt.
They did. So if we look over our hits really quickly, a lot of these are super obvious. You were feeling military all over the area.
Obvious.
As we were driving in, which I think it was a huge area, so I think that's a good hit.
Mining
rocks. It was one of two jobs that the men were forced to do or could do more of for pay. So yeah.
Barnhart Circle was insane just to drive through and to walk around, but being drawn to the bandstand in the center.
Concerts were literally played there, Jill, when you were picking up on that joyous sort of energy, that party energy.
Not only that, and I had this in my notes, but they said that they employed bands to participate in playing music to prevent suicide, to make it more jolly morale. There. Yeah. Yeah.
Old urine. I think that's obvious. Yeah. That would have been bad. Suicide, again, we don't even know how many men committed suicide.
And feeling the need to have to.
Due to the psychological harm.
Knowing that the war is over.
Yeah.
And that prolonged period is really what would drive me crazy.
Right.
Truly.
Yeah, I know.
I would be like, every day, are we getting out now? Are we getting out now?
Right. And having no end date in sight.
And what's really sad is Dr. Weber, he committed suicide on the 28th of April when he might have gotten out in in May when they signed that last treaty.
He might have. But remember, a lot of them weren't released until May of 1920, which would have been another year. Okay. And that feeling that I was getting that they were treated really well.
You were at Camp A.
Camp A. Camp A, they were treated really well.
You weren't wrong.
For prisoners, I have to qualify that. They were still in prison. But
They
for
were
prison,
still in prison, but like I want a private chef. I mean, that would be great. Get Gordon Ramsay's ass over here.
So I also want to mention in closing that when World War II comes around, Germans were interred at Fort Oglethorpe during that war as well.
Oh my God.
So talking about the layers of energy we were feeling, I think that's part of it. And then
are these German Americans or actual like German prisoners of war?
Well, Jill, I did not research that because it is outside the scope of this outline.
I am so sorry.
That's okay. Getting back to the outline, after the end of World War II in 1947, the land was returned to the civilians. So it was no longer the fort owned by the military. Mm-hmm. And it formed the nucleus for a town, today the town of Fort Oglethorpe. And it was incorporated in 1949. And as of the 2020 United States Census, there were 10,423 people residing in the city of Fort Oglethorpe. And the community remains connected to the history of the fort. Now, I was looking online at an article on Chattanooga.com entitled Remembering Fort Oglethorpe. And so I started reading it. And it was a brief history regaling the military importance of the fort. And did you know that it makes absolutely no mention of the internment camp that was there during the World Wars?
I bet they didn't.
And to me, I think that really sums up why we were called to talk about this story.
I knew about the Japanese internments. I did not know anything about German Americans being interred during the wars.
Yeah. So anyway, that is our story. I hope you liked it.
Well, you guys, so we're doing a thing. Jen and I are going to experiment with YouTube and putting our unedited video on YouTube of us recording so you can see how all the sauce is made and you can see what Brian takes out and leaves in.
So we're posting this on YouTube.
Yes, aren't we? Yes,
great.
We are.
Enjoy.
Yes.
So what's going on? Like, what are we doing?
We're doing readings.
We're doing readings.
Yes. So you guys are really sweet and you have been contacting us to do readings and to create classes for you. So thank you. Keep it up. And for inquiries, please email us at commonmystics@gmail.com.
I am looking to create a class, a psychic development beginner's class in October, around October 1st or so, but it depends on interest. So I would like a minimum of 8 people. If you are interested, please email us at commonmystics@gmail.com and let me know you are interested in joining a psychic development class. And we can talk through the details to that. Were we also going to offer our services in the Midwest, Jill, area?
Oh, I'm so glad. For our Halloween episode, Jennifer and I are asking for a listener who has paranormal activity to invite us to come to their house to check out what the spirit wants and maybe either settle it down, ask it to leave, or just chill out with the family. So please let us know
if you reside.
Because we can't be going all far. We have to know, if you are in the tri-state area, Michigan, the lower peninsula, we ain't trying to go north.
Yeah. Michigan, northern Indiana, northern Illinois,
Chicagoland.
Sort of, yeah. Just look at the bottom of Lake Michigan. If you are in the smiley face bottom of Lake Michigan. Oh my God,
her hands right now.
Please go
to YouTube.
We will come to you. We will come to you and investigate.
We will use that experience as the episode for our Halloween episode. So bring it.
We hope there's someone out there listening who would not be afraid to have us come to their house. And
it's not weird. Is it weird?
It's probably a little weird. We come on pretty strong.
I know. I'll sedate myself before I get there.
I'll sedate you.
Thank you.
Take out that dark gun.
Yes, exactly. Well, you guys follow us on all the socials at Common Mystics Pod. Check out our website and email us for readings and inquiries on a class. Thank you so much.
Hey, check us out on Patreon. We are going to be discussing on Tier 2 our detours for this episode. We'll be talking about haunted locations in Huntsville, Alabama, correct?
Actually, that is our detours for the last
you know what?
episode.
That's okay, because that will be posted there.
You're going to tell me a story about the Bibb family.
We don't know what the hell we'll be talking about, but come join us on Detours.
We're going to be talking.
To hear us and see us talk about, I don't know, something. And is there anything else?
No, we just love you.
We just love you. And if you can't, for whatever reason, join our Patreon. That really supports us. But share us with your friends and family. We right now have about 326 followers.
It's so weird.
Apple.
I don't trust the analytics. It's a weird
if we use that as baseline, let's just ask people to help us grow. So if you are a listener,
you guys, no kidding. Let me do it. You're already too long.
You're too long.
I didn't even start yet. Okay.
Well, you were just going to end it without. Okay.
Shh. Okay. Okay, you guys, this is the real thing. We don't have money. We honestly don't have money. And we're spending a lot of money on subscriptions and trying to keep this going.
Chill.
And we want to keep it going.
Really?
No,
That's your tip?
I'm telling the people.
Okay.
I'm telling the people.
We're poor.
Well, help me. No, I'm serious. But we're doing this. And if you like this and if you want this to continue, I know things are jacked up right now. And I know that you may not have any spare money, but if you can just support us for $5, $10, $25 a month, I mean, really, in some cases, I went to Starbucks and I spent $17 on coffee, yo. We're not asking for a lot.
What did you order?
Like a triple venti caramel macchiato, but then I had like a ham and Swiss and a water. Yeah, it was a whole thing. Anyway.
Yeah, you overpaid.
So please.
Make your own sandwich at home.
Please support us because we want to keep this going and we're afraid that we're not going to have enough money to do so long term. And we